Welcome back to WNBA Gossip, where today we will be discussing the latest drama that has swept through the league, the conflict between the famous basketball player Sheryl Swoopes and the young and promising Caitlin Clark. By now, I am sure you've come across quite a few strong opinions on the matter, so let's help you sift through the noise and provide you with the facts. This came as a shock to the entire sports community after it was reported that WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes was taken off her broadcasting duties after an incident that people believed amounted to discriminating against Caitlin Clark, a rising basketball star. But it wasn't just a situation where a seasoned anchor had to deal with backlash. It has led to a rather important debate on race, media, and respect in sports. Sheryl Swoopes, one of the biggest stars of the WNBA, never been shy to express herself and share her views on the current situation of women's basketball. But this happened recently when McCall did not mention Caitlin Clark while analyzing the Indiana Fever squad on air, even though Clark is a well-known player. Caitlin Clark, who scored the most points per game this season and became a social media star, was not included in the Swoopes' analysis, which provoked a lot of discussion. Did Swoopes intentionally ignore discussing Clark, or this was just an omission? Whether or not this was the original intention of the omission, it was not missed by anyone. This was following some time of no news, and it was disclosed that Swoopes was to be subbed in a game between the Dallas Wings and the Indiana Fever, which was to be aired. Some regarded this as the direct outcome of the scandal, as her dismissal was seen as the punishment for the emotional decision-making as a broadcaster. Adding more salt to injury, the Hall of Fame basketball player and a sports analyst Charles Barkley gave his opinion in the matter, which was in support of Caitlin Clark. To many, Barkley is quite straightforward and did not hesitate to weigh in on the issue at hand. Barkley, however, was quite disappointed with this particular event and stated that the only thing that should be being discussed is Clark's abilities as a basketball player, regardless of any other issues that may be at hand. Barkley is not new to controversy either. He has been in the limelight for many years and is aware of how the media works, especially on black athletes. But in this case, he expressed his fear that Swoopes could have been biased in her treatment for Clark and that the young star deserved recognition for her contribution to the game, as well as that she has for her friend, regardless of the issue at hand. He then continued to note that Caitlin Clark is the woman of the future in women's basketball, and while there may be conflicts between the media and players, it does not diminish her accomplishments. For Barkley, the situation was clear. Clark is a generational talent, and any injustice that has befallen her ought to be made crystal clear. In order to appreciate why Caitlin Clark's absence was a huge blow, one has to know the kind of effect she has had on women's basketball. Clark is only 22 years of age and is already being likened to some of the legends of the game. The ascent to the top has been without a doubt one of the most impressive we have seen. The college life of Clark at the University of Iowa brought her into limelight as a basketball player who possesses a great shooting range and a game-controlling ability. She achieved the record and took Iowa into the deep of NCAA tournaments, and many people refer her as one of the best college basketball players of all time. Her entry into the WNBA has also been equally as good. The league is known for its competitiveness, but that has not hindered Clark from establishing herself and has been likened to Stephen Curry, the NBA star from Golden State Warriors, due to her shooting prowess and playmaking skills. This is the reason why she has become the subject of many debates on the future of women's basketball. The viewers love her playing style and take her as an influential personality that can attract more people towards the WNBA. Taking all of this into consideration, it is quite understandable that many people became outraged when Swoopes did not include Clark in a segment of a broadcast advertising the Indiana Fever. For many, it was an inexplicable omission. Why wouldn't a player of Clark's caliber, who's already being compared to the legends, get the credit that she deserves? On the other side of this controversy is Sheryl Swoopes, a player who has done so much for women's basketball. Nicknamed the female Michael Jordan, Sheryl Swoopes was among the first players to join the WNBA in 1997 when it was formed. Some of her accomplishments are 3 times most valuable player, 4 times winner of WNBA championship, and 6 times All-Star. Also, she has 3 Olympic gold medals of the United States of America. Sheryl Swoopes was also instrumental in the early development of the WNBA, and it is clear that she is more than just statistics. This woman was a true trailblazer in more aspects of life than the sports. She opened the door for women and gave hope to the young athletes. Thus, Sheryl Swoopes has a lot to say about women's basketball, and her opinions are rather influential. This just makes the controversy surrounding her silence, or lack of it, even most important. Everyone pays attention to what Sheryl Swoopes has to say, so when she can leave out someone as recognizable as Caitlin Clark, it has meaning. It has to. Sheryl Swoopes, however, has come out to explain that she did not snub Caitlin Clark Clark deliberately since the two are not close friends. Sheryl Swoopes said that she generally concentrates on the players she is familiar with or has had an opportunity to observe in the course of the seasons, and that her decision to omit Clark's name was not a result of prejudice. However, the critics have said that since Sheryl Swoopes is a broadcaster, her duty is to give an impartial opinion regardless of the relationships that she may have with the players. It is unprofessional and improper for such an important player like Clark to be left out of the discussion, particularly when the focus is on the Indiana Fever. This is where things got rather interesting, and in a rather negative manner, because some fans and analysts accused Sheryl Swoopes of being a racist in her commentary, or rather the lack thereof. Caitlin Clark, a white athlete, has received comparisons to black women in the WNBA, with some people speculating that Clark's race had something to do with the coverage and adulation that she has received. According to these critics, black players in the WNBA who perform as well as or even better than white players do not receive the same media coverage and fans' attention as their white counterparts. However, the supporters of Sheryl Swoopes claim that black athletes, and especially women like her, have been subjected to discrimination and prejudice for many years in the sphere of sports. At this point, they argue that it is not right to charge Sheryl Swoopes of being a racist given the fact that the media has always been biased towards the white athletes. This controversy seems to be linked to a bigger issue that has been surfacing for a while now, but is getting revived with the Clark Swoopes issue, and that is race and media portrayal of women's sports. Therefore, what does this mean as the future of both Sheryl Swoopes and Caitlin Clark? For Swoopes, her dismissal from being on air may be a short-term decision or a permanent change depending on the circumstances. The WNBA has defended the rotation of broadcast teams as normal, but most think that letting go of her was in response to her silence or rather negative remarks about Clark. To Caitlin Clark, this does not seem to have impacted her game in any way. She remains unbeatable on the court and has been hailed by the fans as well as other players. From the look of it, Clark is more concerned with her performance on the court and up to this time has not been involved in the off-court issues. The Sheryl Swoopes-Clark affair has raised numerous questions referring to the issue of race, prejudice, and the coverage of the women's tennis events. Regardless of whether Sheryl Swoopes deliberately left out Clark from her list, the episode has brought attention to the representation of athletes, particularly women of color, in the media. At the moment, the focus shifts towards Clark and Swoopes and how they will manage this rather sensitive issue in the future.
Every time Caitlin gets fouled, we can't make it seem like she was assaulted. Why like a Stephen A. Smith? It was that important to you to run the Kennedy Carter hip check, right? That was everywhere. But yet, you didn't even discuss what Alyssa Thomas did to Angel.